Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Hello and welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to find inspiration for our own growth and development. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest is an advertising and marketing research executive. As her income grew, she realized that more of her income was going to taxes, leaving her little to show for the increase. This led to her discovery of the tax advantages afforded real estate investors. Since her discovery, she has invested more than $100 million in real estate and has become one of the nation's leading syndication experts. She founded her investment firm, Keep More, to freely share her knowledge and expertise with those who want to learn from her and to partner with her. Passively investing in every project with her partner investors, she believes with all her heart that it's the safest place to put her money. I am pleased and honored to have with me today Holly Williams.
So Holly, you were just telling me about your new book that is coming out, Hidden Investing, What the Wealthiest 1% Know That We Don't Know. And I probably messed up that title, but I think that's close to what it was. So tell us just a little bit about your book before we get into some of the hard questions about your life here.
Well, it's all good, Alan, and I appreciate being here. It is strange times in our country right now.
That's
and
for sure.
Hidden Investing was written, mostly I was just about finished, and then coronavirus, COVID-19 hit. So I revised some things because a lot of the things that, actually I added some things because most of what I was saying in the book was spot on. And you know, I think that we're all seeing the volatility of the stock market, and we're all seeing that kind of the old way, right?
Just
isn't getting us where it's just not going to get us where we need to be. So Hidden Investing is about really my journey, but it's the process that I went through, discovering that a lot of what we're taught in school by our families, our jobs, our employers, are myths, and that we're not going to be taken care of, because I watched my parents have to live off their 401ks, and I watched them just about reach the end, and I watched them worry about having money, and it's just kind of a racket, actually. And that's what happened to me. And that experience of seeing them worry and having to withdraw money to live on, and pay top dollar taxes on it, because it's also several myths I go through 10 myths, but one of those is that our income is going to go down when we retire. And that's, unless you want to downsize to a little bitty apartment someplace and never go anywhere, it's really not. It's actually going to go up, right? And so that, you know, we put the money in the 401k when we're young and not making any money and in a low tax bracket, then we take it out and we pay top dollar, full 100% taxed as full income. That's one of the myths I talk about. So there's a lot of things that I've learned in my journey, and the reason I got into multifamily investing. And so the book is about that and the things that I've learned along the way.
Well, that brings me to really what one of my first questions was. Robert Frost wrote that infamous poem of Two Roads Diverge in the Woods, and I took the one, and that has made all the difference in the world. And as I was reading about you on your website, that was one of the things I noted, was this story about your parents, and that clearly was a fork in the road for you. So could you expand just a little bit up on those times and what was going on with you in particular, in conjunction with having to deal with that situation that your parents were going through?
Well, sure. So I grew up in a middle-class family in Houston, and my father worked for 35 years for Sun Oil, an oil company, and my mother was a school teacher. And, very nice life. They told me all the things that I did, everything that you're supposed to do. They did everything that you're supposed to do. You save, live below your means, put the most money you can in a 401k because that's going to save us all. And pay taxes and be a good citizen, right? And so I did that. Went to school. After college, got a job in Dallas at an ad agency. And began to do exactly what we're all taught to do.
Told to do, yes.
Most money in the 401k, and so things went on. And a few years later, via North Carolina, by the way, I lived a couple of years in North Carolina, but my career brought me to New York City. And I was climbing up the corporate ladder. I didn't know that there was anything else to do, right?
Right, yeah. That's what we're told to do, yes.
Had a wonderful, was having a fine time, met a man in New York, married the man. We have a beautiful 16-year-old now daughter who was born in 2004. We have, I invested in real estate. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It really opened my eyes. I really thought he was selling books, right? And that it was easier said than done. And when I tried to execute that, it is easier said than done, right? Because it's a lot of work. You have to find the deals. So I did manage to get a couple of houses. We have a 4-family house in Brooklyn. We're renting out 3 apartments. I'm up here in Woodstock in our house up here in Woodstock, New York. And so life was good. I was having a good time, and I happened to be on the board of the Texas Tech Alumni Advisory Board, whatever it is, for the School of Advertising. And so I met a friend of mine that's on that board, was also into real estate and also lived in New York. And so we became good friends. And he called me one day and said he was going to buy this apartment complex, and he was looking for investors, and that those investors would be limited partners, and he would be the general partner, and he would do all the work, and we would get the benefits of buying real estate, but we wouldn't have to do any of the work. So I was like, okay. So I believed in him, and I knew him, and I invested with him. And through that, it has turned into 8 years later, my passive income, after I moved several $100,000 out of the stock market over a period of 6 years. When my passive income reached 6 figures and the deductions were higher than the income from the depreciation, and I was deferring taxes on everything. So I went from paying 50% of everything I made in taxes and watching it go poof to paying much less than that. My life changed, and I became, I was all through this process. I was passionate about it, and people asked me what I was doing. I would tell them, and they wanted to invest also. And so I became a partner on a lot of the projects, and one thing led to another, and I retired from advertising in October of 2018.
Oh, congratulations.
And started keepmore.com. And that's all about keeping more investments outside of Wall Street. So private investments. And the biggest one that I'm a bigger believer in multifamily syndication than any of them. And so the more I learned about these alternative private investments and realized that the wealthiest, that really it's the top 5%, top 0.5%, whatever. 1% was a much better name for a book, right? But
better, right? Yeah.
But yeah, that I thought that some of this was really too good to be true. I mean, how can you do this? How can you make better returns, stable income, not pay taxes, all of those things? And this is how the wealthy live.
Right. And it's those of us who weren't born into wealth, we're not taught these things. We don't know these things. And so it's no wonder that most people never do discover these things, because
Correct.
they're not
So
out there for
fortunate.
people to discover. Yeah.
And we're so fortunate because to participate in a multifamily syndication of just 10 or 20 years ago, you really had to have a $30 million net worth to have a
Mm-hmm.
Goldman Sachs account. I mean, we're buying these apartment complexes from hedge funds and from
Right.
from
Mm-hmm.
institutional and REITs, real estate investment trusts, and a REIT is nothing but a mutual fund that buys real estate.
Right.
So you put your money in the public REIT that you buy on TD Ameritrade or
Right.
whatever
Mm-hmm.
you do, and then they buy one of these apartment complexes. So, and meanwhile, they all get the fees. It all trickles down. What
Or
we're
all
doing
trickles
is
up. Yeah.
bypassing, that's right. What we're doing is getting a bunch of friends together and bypassing all of that
All of that.
and
Right.
going directly and buying the apartment complex and eliminating the big offices and big salaries
Right.
of
Yeah.
Wall Street. So it's very simple.
Well, simple in concept.
It's simpler than you think,
Yeah.
and I urge everybody just to get a mutual fund terms and conditions and just read it.
Yeah.
You have to write the company. Most of them, you can't find the whole. You only have a summary terms and conditions.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get the whole thing.
Right.
So.
Well, tell us, in the time that you've been investing here, you've done well. It's been well for you, but I'm sure there's been bumps in the roads. So think about the worst bump in the road, and what was that all about, and how did you deal with it?
So there are always bumps in the road, no matter what.
That's
So
just life. Yes, indeed.
yeah, and I'm an optimist by nature. I'm a glass half full, all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
everything that I do, I plan for the worst case scenario. So when I make a decision, what's the worst that can happen? And I've had the experience with my parents. Was traumatic, but really the big game changer in my life. And it's interesting that we're going through this COVID thing right now, because the game changer in my life was 9/11. And I lived in Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
and I flew in that morning from LA. I was traveling all the time with my job, and I flew into Newark Airport on a red eye. I landed at Newark at 6:00 in the morning, and I got a cab and went to my apartment in Manhattan and was taking a nap, starting to just drift off, when my husband called me and said that there was a plane that hit the thing. And so, we all went to the roof of the building and we're looking at it, and, we're like, oh my God, and then this other plane hit. I mean, it was just, so it was the turning point in my life, bigger than anything else. I mean, I've never been so afraid, and never, I mean, we were, oh my, geez, there's people jumping out of this building. I mean, it's just horrible. And so I was like 9th Street and Broadway. So what, 20 blocks from, 30 blocks, I don't know, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we didn't know if there were more planes or anything else. And then the aftermath was jet fighters and smoldering rubble and all of that stuff. And that's when, I think that the world just blew up, literally, right? Everything that we knew changed. So I don't mean this to be terrible, but that's when I've decided I don't believe the government, because, not that I don't believe them, but if you recall, those of you who are old enough to recall, Christy Whitman ran the Environmental Protection Agency at that time. And she got on, she said, we've done tests, because we were all like, we're breathing this stuff, this is dangerous. And she's like, we've done tests, the air is totally safe at ground zero. And 30 years later, 20 years later, here we all are going to funeral after funeral, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that's when I really realized, and then it became totally clear to me in 2011, 2010, when my parents were sick, that the government is not going to take care of us.
Right.
I don't want to sound like a nut. I don't want to live anywhere else but America. I mean, the government here, I mean, but I will say that that we are not conditioned as much as we should be to take care of our own financial future. Like, we're not taught financial literacy really in school.
No, we're not. Absolutely not. Yeah.
And
that's not the purpose of our educational system. It's our educational system is intended to make workers out of us, not investors, and it's not intended to make
exactly
us wealthy.
Right.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it's intended to do. You're spot on.
Yeah.
And so,
and I work in the educational system. So.
Exactly. My mother was a school teacher for 30. I mean, I get it. And education is a great thing. People say, don't go to college. It's a way, I say, go to college. It's like,
absolutely.
you need to have all these experiences. But I will say that it became totally clear to me during that decade, call it between 2001 and 2011, if you will, but between 9/11 and losing my folks and seeing financially what was happening to them, and then seeing how my business just stopped after 9/11.
Yeah.
Cut to, and I thought that was the worst thing, that nothing could ever be as bad as that. And I'm still kind of thinking that that's true. But then this COVID thing happened, and it was interesting because there were a lot of people. I'm one of the older ones, right? That are in real estate investing, right? I discovered this later in life, and I got some of my colleagues and partners were after when this whole stock market crashed in March. They were like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "Listen, people aren't jumping off buildings, not yet, at least, right? This is bad, but this isn't that bad." This isn't as bad as that was. After shutting down the country for this long, I don't know what I think. I don't know what I think, but
I don't think anybody really knows. We're all just kind of sitting here
think that
holding our breath.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I do think that things fundamentally changed for me in 2001, just the way that I realized that, wait a minute, there's some really crazy stuff happening, and I start thinking, you talk to people and somebody said to me, "Holly, you're sounding crazy." No, crazy is running a plane into the World Trade Center, crazy. That's what crazy looks like, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it became clear to me that really the experts didn't really know, although I think that they really believed that the air was safe at ground zero. I don't know what they believed, but that's what they said. And so you just have to filter everything through logic and common sense. And so I was never taught to do that. I was taught to, if you think about the stock market, right? Why is it that, a company can have the best earnings ever in the stock crash, and then other companies that aren't even making a profit, their stock is soaring? And why is it that we see this every day now, going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down? Because Wall Street's getting richer, and we're like, oh my God, what do we do? We're scared, right? So that's a long-winded way, and that's the background of why I plan for the worst case scenario. I always have to have a plan B.
Always have to. Well, plan Bs are always good to have, and it's taken me a whole long time to learn that. And I've gone through a lot of hard times in life because I didn't have a plan B, and because I don't know, I just little naive. It's taken a long time to get rid of that naivety.
And the book, though, is about these myths and how the wealthy think about money.
Yeah, and it's entirely different than the way those of us who didn't come from wealth think about it and treat it there. Well, Holly, what is it where is it that you find your highest purpose and your highest meaning? What is it essentially that gets you up every morning and keeps you going?
So I've seen my life change through diversification. Doesn't mean diversification like Wall Street tells you that, tells you when they say for diversify, they say stocks, bonds, big
Right,
stocks.
exactly. Right, yeah.
That's not diversification. When I found out the power of private investing, I immersed myself in it, and it has changed my life, because now money works for me. I don't work for money. And it sounds like a cliche. It makes you think about late night, no money down, get rich quick, and that's not
That's not the
run
way it
from
works.
that.
Yeah.
If anybody says the word guarantee, run as fast as you possibly can, because there's nothing that's guaranteed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's shown me the power of really being grateful for what you have, having a positive, how much mindset has to do with what comes our way in the universe.
Absolutely. Yes.
That the universe always rebuilds and always comes back stronger than ever. It's a law. It's nature's law. I go back to Houston, and my hometown used to be a loop around it. Now there's 3 loops around it. I don't even know where the roads go. These used to be cow pastures out here. And so this thing COVID, what we're going through now, is going to be okay. I don't know when it's going to be okay, though. And just like this time last year, I was telling people this stock market will crash. I was planning for this. So I didn't plan for a pandemic, but I planned for the stock market to crash. I know that you can be high on the hog one day. I always thought I was hot stuff. I worked for AOL in 2001. I was very fortunate. I had a little office in the Time Life building where, they started finding anthrax and everything. It was just crazy, right?
Yes, it
and
was.
So life can just change. And so that's why multiple streams of income are so important. That's why living below your means is so important. That's why having enough reserves is so important. I look at investment opportunities today, and it's like, wait a minute, you want me to put $100,000 in here, and you're going to buy row houses in Philadelphia. This was yesterday. You're going to buy row houses in Philadelphia, smack dab in the middle of the downtown, where nobody wants to be now. And they have no income coming in. You're going to take them and you're going to renovate them. And then you're going to lease them. And you're going to give me $115,000 back this time next year. It's not happening.
Right.
I don't see it. I don't see it in my head. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. We'll see how it goes. I didn't invest in it.
Yes, if only we knew what the future would be. We could.
But I can get on board with 200 apartment units, 96% occupied today, cash flowing already. I mean, like mega cash flowing. The occupancy could drop to 53% before we can't pay the bills. We're raising $1 million in reserves, and we're getting a 10-year fixed loan on it for 4%. And we're going to hang on. We're going to collect the money for 7 years and pay dividend. I can get on board with that a lot faster than I can get on board with here's 20 houses in Philadelphia that need a doctor. And we're going to find construction people where, oh, by the way, where are they? They can't work because it's unnecessary or whatever they say. And then we got to get city permits, and the offices aren't. My daughter was supposed to get her driver's license in March. This is sad. We were supposed to get a driver's license in March. We can't get the kid is 16. She can't get her driver's license because there's no Department of Motor Vehicle. I mean, there's just a gazillion things like that. We just weren't anticipating, were we?
No, came out of nowhere. So at least
that's exactly right.
At least I mean, I had no idea it was coming. I don't know.
Correct.
I think some in leadership had more idea than what they're letting us know. But
that's another podcast, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think you have to trust people, but I think you have to trust people that are like-minded and have the same goals. That's my challenge. My problem with what's going on now is that I don't understand what the goal is. the goal was supposed to be to flatten the curve so that we could get our healthcare system in order, because we run it like an airline, right? There's never,
Right.
this time last year in every hospital, empty beds were lost revenues. So that's right or wrong. That's the way America works, right?
Right.
And so if you're going to have an anticipation of a lot of people being sick, you need to slow down the spread dramatically so that you can get ventilators and you can build more emergency hospitals and you could do this, that, and the other thing. That's what I signed up for.
Right.
Was stay home for 2 weeks, and then they didn't get it done in time, so I get that. So stay home for another 2 weeks. So that's what the plan was. Now I'm not sure what the plan. I don't know what the plan is. So no one's giving me a plan. Some people say we're going to stay locked down till the vaccine comes. Some are saying that if one person dies, it's not worth any of us going to work. Some people say, I mean, so that's the challenge. And so in every investment now, I want to know what the end game is. What is the goal? Where do we want to be? And if there's a fork, if there's 2 different options, 3 different options, that's fine. That's fine. But we need criteria. Okay, so if we get to year 5 and we can't sell it for X or Y or Z, then we have 5 more years on our loan so we don't have to get out of it if there is a crash in year 5, right? So we have a plan B. So the more options you have, the better. And that's what education to me now is about. That's what in my investing strategy is to not get, there's no such thing as a sure thing. And you have to understand the business plan and the objectives of the business plan. And if somebody would just tell me what the objective, what we were trying to do here with COVID, then I would get on board.
It would be
probably.
helpful, yes.
Or not, but
but at least have some idea where we're going. Well, we're coming to the end of.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're coming to the end of our time here, Holly. I've just got one more question for you, but before we go into that, tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you.
They can keepmore.com, Holly at keepmore.com.
Okay.
And the book is Hidden Investing, What the Wealthiest 1% Know That We Don't.
Okay.
And it will be out in a couple of weeks.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
And when is this going? Yeah, anyway.
So so my last question is, when you come to the end of your life, what would you like your epitaph to read?
That I was authentic, that my intentions were always to make the world a little better place, and that I had a good time.
That's wonderful. That's something a lot of people seem to leave out, is having a good time.
Oh, yeah.
But good aspirations to live for, and it looks like you're living your life in that direction.
We're trying to. We're all plugging along, right?
It's been a pleasure, Holly. It's been delightful meeting you, and it's been a delightful conversation. I've enjoyed it very much.
Think of the objective before you invest.
Yes. Hopefully we can get back together here in the not too distant future here.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with Successful Multifamily Real Estate Investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.